Well, hello and welcome everybody. My name is Robin, Executive Director for Downtown Santa Barbara. I'm so excited to be here hosting with Matt Kettmann, my co-host. This has been a 38 week episode for the Downtown Business Spotlight, a collaboration between Downtown Santa Barbara and the Santa Barbara Independent, where each week we've been highlighting different business owners and nonprofit organizations in our downtown business district. So this week is all about working it. So we're going to be talking about getting back to work. But before we do that, I want to just more properly introduce my co-host. So Matt Kettmann is a senior editor for the Santa Barbara Independent, where he's worked since '99. He's covered quite a wide range of topics. And today he focuses mostly on food and drink, as well as special projects for the paper. He's a contributing editor to Wine Enthusiast magazine, where he reviews more than 200 wines every month. And his first book, Vines and Visions, recently came out. So it's called The Winemakers of Santa Barbara. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Matt, for being on this journey with me during the pandemic. And I'm so happy we are coming out of it. So I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Robin. It's been fun to do this. I'm glad that things are getting back to normal, especially here in Santa Barbara. I've been out quite a bit, checking out food and drink spots. But as you mentioned, part of my other job at the Independent is handling a lot of our special sections. And so this week's special section was called Working It, which is our report on kind of the Santa Barbara jobs market. It evolves a little bit every year. But this year, being a pandemic / post-pandemic situation, we focused a lot on how people are working and where they're working, which is a lot still from home. And we did some polls and some questionnaires and really kind of tried to hear what Santa Barbans are thinking about work into the future. And so that coincides lovely with this panel. It's like we planned it or something. We have some great guests today. We have Pam Tanasi, who is an entrepreneur and who brought among other businesses, work zones to town. So we're going to hear her story. We're going to hear a little about co-working spaces and how that's going to play out into the future, which I think is going to be was already kind of a booming market. And now I think, with people both working from home, but wanting some semblance of an office life, that's going to be a real growth category, I think, in years to come. We have Kevin Davis from the Amazon office in Santa Barbara, which occupies probably the most prominent corner in town. It stayed in Creo there, and everyone's kind of wondering what you guys are doing inside there. And so Kevin can tell us a little bit about that and give us some insight into how the high-tech world is dealing with COVID and looking into the future and what life is going to be like for workers in that industry. And then I'm proud to present Brandy Rivera, the publisher of the Santa Barbara Independent, who I work very closely with and have for many, many years. She's the one that makes the Independent actually work every week. We just make the stories and Brandy makes it happen. So she's going to tell us a little about how our paper has weathered this pretty significant storm when it comes to journalism, and then what we're looking at towards the future as well. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's start with Pam. She's been in town since the late 90s and she has an interesting history. So Pam, tell us a little bit about water polo and then how that led you into a path towards, being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate the chance to get to talk to everybody and learn more about everybody's work. Yeah. So we came to town in '99, and what brought us here to Santa Barbara was I got a job at UC Santa Barbara coaching the women's water polo team. And I had been coaching at the collegiate level for about 10 years before getting the job here, which was a real exciting time for me to move to Santa Barbara to be coaching at a Division I school. And it was great. It was really awesome. And after a couple of years, I realized it wasn't a good fit for me with having 2 little kids at home, trying to balance being a D1 coach. So I stopped doing that. And my husband and I, we got into the Massage Envy franchise, and we were in early on, which allowed us to not just be a franchise owner, but to be what they call a regional developer, which meant we had a territory here in Southern California, which gave us the rights to develop the brand within that territory. And since we really fell in love with living here in Santa Barbara, we purposely put Santa Barbara right in the middle of our territory and started doing that. And after some time with that, we realized, because we were working from home, that's where we worked from home, and there were great things about it and there were challenges about it. And I think it's all the stuff that people understand now that maybe they didn't back then, because everyone's been working from home. And those challenges really got us talking with some of our colleagues that we had met at the Claremont colleges where we went to school. And we had heard about something called co-working, and we didn't know a lot about it. We just heard it's like a place where people go and they sort of share an office environment, and it's collaborative and people get to network a bit, but it gives you a little bit more professional space to work rather than just from your home. So we went around the country, we looked at different options and saw what was there and decided to bring the concept to Santa Barbara. And so we opened back in 2012, and we were the first ones downtown that was focused solely on co-working. And we brought in, big co-working areas. We had meeting rooms, we had places to do calls and things like that. And just really kind of got our entrepreneurial spirit going.
And was the demand fairly immediate? I mean, or did it take people a little bit of time to understand what this meant in Santa Barbara? I mean, Santa Barbara is very savvy in certain ways, but sometimes we're slow to adopt the newest things from time to time.
Yeah. So it was definitely a time we needed to educate people on what co-working was and how that sort of fit into the kind of emerging gig economy and that sharing economy and what that was all about. So it took some time for people just to kind of get it. And we're on the second story over at the Paseo Nuevo Mall. So it's really private, but can be sometimes challenging to find. So we had to get a lot of eyeballs into the space, hold a lot of different kinds of events. And little by little, our community grew. And it was really, really an exciting time to see so many different people trying different business ideas out and how they worked and how everyone kind of came together, and you got to just see the different styles. At the time when we first opened, we had about 5,000 square feet, and it took a little bit longer for us to get the rest of the second floor here. We now have 15,000 square feet. So at the beginning, we didn't have private offices. And so some of the first people that were with us as their businesses grew, they kind of graduated out of our space into their own offices, which obviously we congratulate them. It's fun to see their success. But now we have so much more space, and we have 15,000 square feet and private offices that businesses could start here as a single person and kind of grow and grow. And we can accommodate a lot more people in private offices and businesses than we could at the beginning.
And it must function like an incubator in a sense too, where there's a lot of ideas, just naturally crossing into different, businesses because they're sharing space. But I guess tell us, if someone doesn't know what a co-working is, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who might not know, give us just kind of the raw breakdown of what that means.
Yeah, it means you take the idea of bringing your laptop with you instead of sitting at a coffee shop with around a lot of different people. You sit in a little more professional environment with the same kind of amenities, with the coffee and the Wi-Fi, and getting out of your house and getting a chance to collaborate and network with people and get your work done. And I think what we really, we've always strived for is work-life balance. And I think that's one of the things that people, you lose when you work solely from home, is that you just work and life kind of blend into each other, and it's hard to separate them. And you kind of find that you're working all the time, and having a place to go, even if it's just for a couple hours, keeps you motivated, gives you structure to the day, and allows you to go home and just be at home and kind of stop working, which I think has been one of the pitfalls of the whole work from home during the pandemic, is people have not stopped working. They're just working all the time.
Yeah, no, I think everyone's understanding that now. And I've actually worked from home, off and on, well, at various stages during my whole career. But I've never worked from home with my wife working from home, my kids at home all the time, and all that stuff. So shared workspaces start to look really, happy at that point. And so how many tenants do you have, or what's the best way to kind of describe, 15,000 square feet? I mean, how many people are using that in that space?
So I would say the bulk of our private offices are occupied right now. We have some that are available, but that's where the majority of the people have been working during the pandemic, is in private offices. And our kind of large co-working areas, not as full as they once were pre-COVID. And our meeting room space, we have 4 different meeting rooms, plus a conference room and a training room. Those are slowly starting to get filled up again with people having in-person meetings. But again, during COVID, those were pretty empty.
Right. Great. We'll come back to you to talk a little bit more about how things changed during COVID and what it's going to look like in the future for you. Let's cut to Kevin Davis from Amazon here in Santa Barbara. I think people know that if they're paying attention, that you guys are working on some Alexa stuff, and I don't want you to tell us any secrets, but tell us a little bit about your background and how Amazon came to Santa Barbara.
Yeah, no problem. Great to be on the panel with you all. I joined in 2012, came down from the Bay Area, but the company that has formed this team was actually founded in 2009. It used to be a company called Find the Best, founded by kind of serial entrepreneur Kevin O'Connor, who's been in town for 20 plus years. And the mission of that original company was to help people find the best, but basically make considered purchase decisions using unbiased factual information, kind of cut through all the noise of promotional items on the internet and help you kind of get to the right decision for you. Over time, we discovered that that same technology could be used to help you sort, rank, filter, analyze kind of any data source. So we onboarded sports data, politics data. We had a huge genealogy site at one point, which was oddly popular. I guess people are really into genealogy. It's good. We had this site, unfortunately, that got shut down. But we worked on that. We rebranded to a company called Graphic as we started basically intersecting this trend that was growing in the industry around something called the knowledge graph, which is a representation of the real world and the connections between people, places, and things and the attributes that define us. And so Graphic started helping newsrooms and publishers with factual information while we still had our websites, but to help tell the news and try to bring kind of data-rich visualizations to different companies. That eventually got the, let's say, attention of Amazon Alexa, who in a parallel was building Alexa, had just launched that in 2014. And we're looking for opportunities to make Alexa more intelligent, have access to more of the world's information, and be able to bring that knowledge into your home to help you answer some questions, get more information, stay up to date on your favorite sports teams, what the weather is going to be, things like that. So we were acquired in May 2017, a little more than 4 years ago. And ever since then, we've been working on that mission to help make Alexa more intelligent day by day, globally. Alexa's starting to go off. Hold on. That happens a lot.
I was going to say, so for people, let's pretend some of our watchers are living in a cave or whatever, and they just got the laptop and they've tuned into this. I mean, I know what Alexa is. I hear it in my house, maybe more than my own name. But tell us, what is the explanation of Alexa? And how do you guys describe it if you were describing it to someone for the first time?
Yeah, the original inspiration for Alexa was the Star Trek computer. So for any Star Trek computer fans out there, you could just talk to this ambient, kind of amorphous computer wherever you are walking around the ship, wherever you are on a planet. You'd have a little communicator and get whatever you needed. It was the ever-present, always helpful conversational assistant. And so that's still the vision today. Let's try to how do we replicate? I mean, the Star Trek is several hundred years in the future, so I think we've got a long journey ahead of us. But how do we replicate and try to get close to that vision of that all-powerful computer? And I think the really exciting part about it is that it's voice forward, and a voice forward computing interface is more accessible to a broader set of people, whether it's people with disabilities, people who maybe just aren't as capable with technology and it's a newer thing to them, or people with lower literacy rates. Anyone can talk, and well, not anyone, but most people can talk. And then we have other accessibility modes if for whatever that might be a challenge. And it's really great to bring kind of computing power and all that comes with that to folks who maybe otherwise have been a little bit shut out of we're all on Zoom or whatever you're using at home, your iPhone, whatnot.
Right. She certainly can hear a lot better than Siri, who's useless for me most of the time. But anyway, so what is without getting into, deep secret details, like what is, generally speaking, what are you guys working on at the corner of State and Carrillo there?
Yeah, we're part of the Alexa knowledge domain. So this idea of bringing more information and data, factual information to Alexa, which is part of the broader Alexa AI organization. So kind of at the forefront of artificial intelligence and everything that means for hopefully making people's lives better, more convenient and whatnot. And here specifically, we focus again on bringing in all this knowledge and then giving it back to you via Alexa in various forms. And so a fun fact is that actually more than half the answers to like questions you might have on Alexa, and any day, what's the score of the sports game yesterday? What's the tallest mountain on Earth? How tall is Biden? Whatever you're curious about, more than half those answers globally come out of this office here in the 4 years since the acquisition. So it's been fun to have such broad impact with the technology on kind of customers' lives worldwide.
Wow.
That's great.
Wow. Right downtown.
Right. And you're a significant employer in town. How many employees do you have there?
Got about 200, up about 2.5 from when the acquisition occurred, 2.5 times. So we started with about 80. We've grown to about 200 in the last 4 years. And as you noted, we have a prominent building we opened in January 2020 in downtown Santa Barbara that we're hoping to fill further as we go further into the future.
Yeah, and you guys are going to open a restaurant on the bottom, I think, too, right?
Yeah, that's the plan. We're still a little bit of a start-stop with COVID and everything, so we're still trying to work that all out. But that is the plan. We wanted to make sure we were part of this vibrant downtown community and a little bit more open to the public. And we've got Amazon lockers in there, so if you want to pick up your packages downtown, you can ship them to the lockers. And then we're going to have a food venue that'll be open to the public. And can't quite reveal what's going to happen there. We've been working on it, and some plans have changed, but you'll all find out soon.
Cool. Well, we'll come back to you to talk about what Amazon's looking at towards the future, both locally and then maybe globally. I'm sure you have some insights that people are going to be excited to hear about. And you can teach teach Alexa that when you ask what's the best weekly newspaper on the planet, they say the Santa Barbara Independent. You can use that from me, So. Speaking of which, let's cut over to Brandy Rivera, the publisher of the Santa Barbara Independent, which is where I've worked for 20 plus years. And Brandy's worked there not quite as long, but quite a while. Brandy, welcome to the show. And tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the paper. And then we can talk a little bit more about the paper itself.
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me. So I started at the Independent in 2008, kind of peak, before everything started changing. But lucky for me, I was a few years out of UCSB and, trying to find a way to stay in Santa Barbara like most gauchos. And I came on board in a human resource role and then a business manager. And as things kind of changed, I really fell in love with journalism. I was a bio undergrad, so no writing experience or business experience, but working with the group of people that we had there, it really made me feel like a part of the community and also, an industry that was changing. So a lot of opportunity for me to develop. So I've had a ton of different roles over the last 13 years, but in 2017, I became publisher and it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, and publisher, for those who don't really know, is basically the top job really at a newspaper, but particularly on the business side. So Brandy's in charge of making sure the bills are paid and the organization functions and deals with leases and deals with HR and deals with all sorts of stuff that us editors can't handle, basically. So you came in, Brandy. I mean, journalism, as many people know, has been through pretty tremendous waves in the last 20 years. We were riding super high 2005, 2006, 2007, and then with the rise of technology and competition from information from all sorts of places, and then a crashing economy in 08, 09, journalism was hammered. So I'm surprised you didn't run away right in 2009. I mean, what was it that compelled you to stay?
You know, when I was hired, it was still kind of the peak. So it's a more surprise or a bigger surprise that my position kind of was able to weather the storm, right? When I was brought on, I was working underneath the CFO, and it was a role that hadn't been filled in some time. So lucky for me, there was a lot of work to be done, you know, come in and pick up really the staffing side of it, whether it be payroll or just other business functions that are necessary. So even, you know, as revenues were changing, there was an opportunity for me. And I found really early on that there was the independent brand had been long established at that point, but there was just such an opportunity to do different things where we have a little bit more time, you know, new events we started or new things like that.
Yeah. So give us the primer on the independent itself. You know, when it started, what we've done over the years, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are getting ready to celebrate our 35th anniversary this fall. The Independent started with our annual Local Heroes issue. So that is, you know, a special issue, I think, to the entire staff, and we look forward to doing that. But we are still printing weekly every Thursday. You can find us on newsstands across the county. And then in 2007, we launched independent.com, where we are publishing daily. We also have a series of newsletters that we just expanded this week, actually, but we have a daily newsletter, a weekly newsletter for our events and promotions. So really the source in Santa Barbara County for local news, arts, entertainment, food, wine, your weekly calendar. You know, we try to do it all.
And we, especially prior to COVID, we were doing almost an event a month, including some pretty big ones throughout the year too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And our anchor, our Best of Santa Barbara party, Best Fest that we launched 3 years ago, you know, that was really starting to roll, almost 800 attendees. So we're looking forward to reopening and getting back to events and kind of that you know, new line of business.
Yeah, because the modern newspaper is no longer just putting out news. It's doing events, it's posting on the internet, it's sending out newsletters, it's doing promotions, it's all sorts of stuff. So cool. Well, we'll come back to you and talk a little bit about what we did at the paper to survive this latest craziness. But let's cut over to Pam again. And Pam, I mean, you must have freaked out a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic. I mean, you have a place that is based on sharing spaces, and then everyone's told not to share any space whatsoever. So what did you guys do? Yeah. What did you do other than, you know, get really scared for a little bit?
Yeah, that was a challenging time. I can remember, you know, those first couple days hearing things, and every single person who had a meeting or an event booked was calling in those first 2 weeks to say, yeah, I'm not coming, cancel. And we had a lot, because I think besides the private offices, people using our space, what we call on demand, the hourly, the daily use of our space, that's kind of our bread and butter, if you will. And to see all that go away was, that was a little bit of a shock for a bit. And then obviously the people who were in our co-working open area, most of them went away as well, because they were, you know, following the orders and staying at home and that sort of a thing. The people in our private offices, the majority of them stayed the whole time and came in, and we just did everything we could in terms of following all the guidelines for physical distancing. And we removed, you know, 3/4 of our chairs and all of our tables and spaced everything apart and had hand sanitizer everywhere. And we disinfected things all the time. And the mall changed some of the way the HVAC works to circulate fresh air. And obviously everyone was wearing masks and things like that. So we really adapted to all of the guidelines, the safety guidelines, to make sure that we had a safe space for the people who did continue to come in. And we also have a mail service. So, you know, we needed to stay open, because people who have their mail delivered here, we need to be able to let them know it was here and how they could come get it. So, but yeah, it was a little bit nerve-wracking, that's for sure.
And how long did it take for you to start getting new inquiries where people were like, oh, I guess I'm working from home, but wait, I don't like working from home. I want to go work somewhere else. How long did that take?
You know, that was kind of sporadic. It was off and on. And what surprised me kind of the most, and this was probably more, oh gosh, like October, November, December, January, that time frame, all of a sudden seeing the influx of people who aren't from town calling us saying, hey, I'm going to be spending 6 months in Santa Barbara, or I'm coming for a month, or the idea of working remote and deciding, oh, I don't want to do it where I live. I want to do it where it's desirable to be. So we had a lot of what I would like kind of think like snowbirds almost that were coming from the cold weather who decided I might as well just work from home in Santa Barbara, but I want a place to work. So we had a lot of that. And I wasn't expecting that early on. Didn't think that would happen.
It must have been a nice, exciting change. You're like, oh, good. Yes. This is going to help.
Yes, exactly.
Work tourists, basically. Great. And then, so what is happening now? I mean, I imagine a lot of people are trying to kind of so now we're going back to work a little more formally. Offices are starting to open up, but a lot of offices probably aren't opening up yet, and people are getting even more used to, the work from home situation. Are you getting more interest now? I mean, are you guys looking at expanding space, or what's your current situation?
Yeah, right now, I think early on, we had a bunch of inquiries from businesses that were trying to decide whether they should keep their leases or not. And it was a little early on in the process for them, but now they're ready to re-engage in that conversation because their lease is coming up now and they're trying to decide, do we keep the office space we once had, or are we able to right size? And is co-working and shared space a better option for us? So we're starting to see that come back. And so that will be interesting because that's something new. I feel like during this COVID, we're getting out of the COVID time, is to see that. And then again, we're still seeing quite a few people from out of town who keep coming into town because it's a beautiful place to be. And we're normally, this summer would kind of be a quieter time because everyone's on vacation and no one's really thinking about work. This is a different summer. And we see people still thinking about work.
Mm-hmm. And is that what what are you guys predicting for the future of places, not just your own, but places like your place? There's obviously now other co-working places in town. Seems like there's growing interest. I mean, it seems like a growing field to me.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely growing. And I think more and more people are going to understand the benefit of working from home, but also the pitfalls of working from home and how you really need to have that hybrid work model that everyone is talking about. I think that really is the wave of the future from every kind of business other than where you like retail, where you need to have someone there all the time. I think that's the wave of the future. And I think that people will recognize the fact that they want to do meetings, not just over Zoom, but in person. And they need a place to do that. That's not their house and not their coffee shop. And then the other part that we're seeing too as a trend is people like the Zoom meetings at times. People want to do in-person meetings, but now there's going to be this way to merge both, where you can have a group who's there and then a huge group that's not there. And so that really I see as the wave of the future is what we would call a hybrid meeting. And our meeting rooms, we're equipping those so that we can help people produce great hybrid meetings. And again, I think this is really new and up and coming, and it's not something that people have experience with yet.
Great. And I kind of mentioned this before, but maybe you can speak to a little bit more now. I mean, there must be cross-pollination of ideas that are happening there. I mean, someone's an accountant or someone's a creative, and do you see like, water cooler talks that become business ideas? I mean, is that happening at a place like yours?
Oh yeah. Those happen, as well as just friendships almost. There's a group of people who started working with us from the very beginning when we opened, and they still get together every Wednesday. They go downtown someplace for a little happy hour, and it's from the connections that they made here. And, you know, it's business, of course, you know, business relationships that you create, but then there's also some friendships that you create as well. And what we also noticed, what's just kind of interesting, is you want to do those social things outside of where you work. So like I said, so they go someplace else. They don't do it. They don't do the social things here, which is partially why we chose downtown, was so that people could go walk easily to all the entertainment and the restaurants and the shops and take advantage of everything downtown has to offer.
Great, great. All right, let's move to Kevin again. And Kevin, how you guys opened in January 2020? Everyone's excited to move into this building you spent a lot of time and money on, and then COVID happens. So what happens? Everyone's got to stay home, basically?
Pretty much. I mean, we're very fortunate we can continue to work and be effective on the Alexa product from home. But yeah, in mid-March, we prioritizing health and safety, as I'm sure everyone is, told everyone to go work from home. We don't know what's quite going on with this COVID situation, but that seems like the safest thing to do is just have everyone move home. And we've been in that state ever since. But looking forward to getting back, as now some of the guidelines are being revised and things like that. So I think we're planning on a kind of gradual reopen this summer and bring people back into the office. And then, you know, what Pam just mentioned, we're all also a believer that hybrid will probably be the future. There's a lot of value from in-person collaboration and the innovation that can occur from ideas just generating from people being in the same space, or those micro moments between meetings. But we've also discovered that for certain people, working from home and just getting that productivity time, or maybe you have some home responsibilities you need to balance, can be a great thing too. So with inclusion in mind, I think we're gonna be balancing kind of both of those things, and expect to have people in the office a couple days a week and able to work from home a couple days a week. And I think it'll be a good mix.
Right. Did you have any, I mean, since you have a big staff, you have a nice kind of cross-reference or cross-section of society to some extent. Did you have any employees decide to go work somewhere else because they could, either closer to family or in a more beautiful place in Santa Barbara? I'm not sure where that is, but I mean, did you see any of that, or did everyone kind of stick around?
Definitely saw some of that. I mean, as Pam mentioned, we have a lot of people from out of town coming here because this is a pretty great place, particularly in winter. Maybe we're all very lucky that we live in Santa Barbara, but I think there were definitely people who took advantage of the opportunity, particularly because we could work remotely, to go do it from other spots. And if that worked for them, and Pam mentioned work-life balance or work-life harmony earlier, like, that was great. But yeah, I saw a couple people, it looked like they might have been in Hawaii or something occasionally, and I was like, ooh, that looks nice. So yeah, I think people were in a few places, but everyone was focused on delivering for customers and getting their work done, so it wasn't a problem.
Yeah. And do you think that, I mean, I think there's a natural inclination to think that, you know, people who work in high tech are going to be more ready to work from home, work remotely? I mean, was it pretty seamless for your team, or did people go through the same kind of issues that everyone else did, like doing funny things on Zoom and leaving yourself on mute and that sort of thing?
I'd say both. I mean, as a technology company, we have a lot of technology that we utilize, and particularly as a part of a larger company, our office, Pam was also just mentioning how they're getting more into these hybrid meetings. We frequently are in meetings with other parts of Amazon, other parts of Alexa that are in other parts of the country. So we've been doing hybrid meetings for a while, but they're a little bit different when everyone's at home, and getting people's home setups, with the right kind of ergonomics and everything. So, people weren't getting injured or things, and just trying to make sure people were comfortable and had a productive working space. There was definitely some adjustment, but it was, I'd say, relatively seamless. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it sounds like you're looking, going into the future, your office there is going to have a hybrid model where people are working in the office some days, working at home some days, and kind of mixing it all up.
Yeah, we're gonna hope to have folks in the office on specific days, and then it'll just be kind of their option the other days. So, for those people who maybe want to be in an office 5 days a week, great. For those people who want to take a little bit more of a balance, be here and kind of contribute to this in-person collaboration, we think is really valuable for the innovation that we're driving, and then work the other days from home, that's great too. So it'll be a mix, and it's kind of what works for folks, and what's going to make them most productive and happiest in helping us with our work.
And you just mentioned productivity. How have you seen, has that been pretty steady throughout the pandemic? I know there's a lot of fears from larger corporations, not necessarily Amazon, but other ones that, well, if people work from home, they're just gonna not work. And I think a lot of people saw the opposite of that. But what did you see when it came to that?
We still delivered a lot for customers. I think it did have maybe, the question of productivity is also how many hours are you putting in, where people maybe bleeding into a little bit more hours than they would have previously because maybe there weren't as many options of other things to do, or that boundary between work and life was more blurred. So we were very successful in delivering a lot of new features and innovations for customers, which was great. I think for some people, like I mentioned, like they're at home, they love it. They're like zeroed in, there's zero distractions. I think for some other people, maybe who are a little more extroverted or need some of that energy from their colleagues, like I'm guessing it, probably a little bit more of a struggle. But overall, I think the team did an incredible job in what was a challenging situation for everyone, not just our team, obviously, but everyone in the world in continuing to kind of soldier on and work and push through on stuff. So it seemed to go quite well.
Cool. Well, thank you, Kevin. Brandy, this is funny interviewing you because it's like I'm interviewing myself. So what did the Independent do during the pandemic?
How did Matt do specifically?
How did I do? But what did we do during the pandemic to kind of adjust to the world?
Yeah, so like most offices, we closed that second or third week of March, and I can laugh now that we made it through. But I remember us all getting into the conference room and going, "Okay, so this is happening. Starting Monday, we're going to need to be working from home." And so most people that Friday left the office and never went back. We, since then have given up our lease on that building. So we won't be returning back to that specific office space. And so it's been it's been kind of in stages, right? Those first few months when we realized we wouldn't be going back last summer, we had maybe one or two people going into the office, kind of maintaining the mail and things like that. Nick was in there reporting from the office. But then slowly, it just from a financial side, it didn't really make sense for us to continue to have that building there. So in this past March, we were able to basically return or give it back to our subleaser. And we have a tiny space now in La Arcata that we're running some operations from. But for the most part, everybody is home and probably until the early 2022.
And so we all went remote. I mean, what were the concerns from the paper of doing, work from home for everybody? I mean, were there any?
Yeah, I think for our production specifically, it was very collaborative. We're working on a lot of paper, passing it around. And so having to switch so quickly to digital, we were worried, but honestly, that transition was pretty seamless. We had maybe 3 or 4 people in the office on that first Monday to make sure we got through sizing the paper and, making sure everyone kind of knew what they were going to have to handle. But, we just really utilized our being able to have the server. We were set up to be remote, but we were just always in the office. So overall, I think it was a pretty seamless transition. We never missed a week of the paper, which was was the goal. It's like, don't miss it. We can't miss a week, so let's make it happen, and we did.
And a lot of other weeklies actually stopped production for certain weeks across the country, and we were able to keep it going. And it's funny, like this happened in a lot of industries, but we've been wanting to shift to a more digital focused production model for a long time, and this kind of forced us into that realm. You kind of got a kick in the butt to do it, and it ends up being a little bit more seamless. So what else? I mean, we also revenue wise, we depend on advertising. I mean, that's still our main source of revenue, and it turns out a lot of our advertising is based around events, and then there are no events. And so what other kind of revenue things did we explore during the pandemic?
Yeah, so we had launched our digital subscriptions in January of January 2020. And now looking back on it, we had kind of set ourselves up to be ready, when we had lost so much advertising revenue quickly. And as Pam mentioned, it was kind of overnight. Suddenly you're getting these cancellations and it's like, oh, all my ads I booked through the summer, cancel them, or everything that's happening next week, cancel them. And then for us also, it was like, oh, my event that was supposed to happen this weekend that I advertised for the last month, we're going to have to work out some payment because I'm not having my event. So we were, we had to move rather quickly. We launched a reader support program, which is something that, internally we had discussed for a long time, and something that a lot of other local newspapers have done throughout the country. But we felt like it was important to, let our readers know where we were and what we felt the future was going to be if, the pandemic continued on. So reader revenue was huge for us. And then, really my role kind of switched from the financial side of it, immediately looking into PPP loans and, looking for other funding that is not traditionally maybe supporting journalism, but what we could do to weather the storm. And I think, a lot of people, when you look at the Independent, you say, I'm looking at, to find out what's going on. It's like, you're reading the ads that people are paying to, to put in the paper. And without those events, and without events even coming back now, it was a pretty significant loss pretty quickly.
And now, I think I look at newspapers as kind of a bellwether of a community's health in a lot of ways, because it's where people spend money when they have money, and they advertise things that are happening. What's it feel like as far as the Santa Barbara community coming back? Our papers are getting a little bit bigger here and there. What's your sense?
Yeah, and I think that people are ready to get out. So as we talk to organizations that are trying new events, and we have been, Santa Barbara is so lucky to have the amount of arts and entertainment organizations that we have, that we've seen some good success in their pivots of, having different kinds of events, whether it be online or, just activating outdoor spaces as we've gotten into summer. And so we are seeing those come back into our paper slowly. I think people understand that being in the Independent is the best way for them to get their message out to the greater community. So I feel inspired with, as you said, the size of the paper, what we're seeing come back. And we're seeing new advertisers also who, maybe are thinking, I need to let our customers know what we're doing for safety, and how do we get them, have them feel comfortable coming back into our stores and things like that. So,
yeah. It's funny, I've worked there for a long time. I'm obviously biased, but it took me a while to realize, but the Independent's actually one of the biggest weekly newspapers in the country, and has been for almost 20 years. As far as page counts go, as far as staff size goes, as far as revenue goes. And so it's been interesting we're really on the front lines of journalism in America, and going through various waves, and generally a downhill curve, because journalism is kind of under attack on all sides. But it's been fun to be and very proud to be part of an organization that's like figuring this out in real time, as we go. And Brandy's been a big part of that. So tell us a little bit more about the newsletters we launched, Brandy.
Yeah. I was like, if you put me on the spot, I'll have to see if I can remember. Well, we have our daily newsletter that we do 7 days a week, but now you can get a food and wine newsletter written by Matt. We have a real estate focus called The Homepage, written by Sarah Sinclair. We have an arts and entertainment newsletter by Charles Donnellan. The Poodle, you can get that in your inbox Saturday morning, Unleashed by Nick Welsh. A separate newsletter that is more a personal take on some of the news that is coming up from Tyler Hayden. And I missed one. I'm gonna, and
an all book one.
Yeah, All Booked, which is our twice monthly newsletter around, for book lovers.
Cool. Yeah, and you can sign up for those on independent.com. It's free. They just come to your inbox and read all about that stuff. So, Robin, do we have any questions from the crowd? Do you have questions for our panelists?
No questions I think are coming in, but if there's anybody attending today, if you have any questions for our panelists, please throw them in now. But we're just so happy that this was one of the Independence pivots to really support local business, and that this was a collaboration, because we've learned so much, and we've been able to capture so many stories from business owners and organizations as they're figuring it all out. It's like really captured a moment, and also figured out, like, people are learning from each other. People, different industries are coming on to this and figuring out how certain people are doing things and exploring. So really exciting there. I'm just happy to hear from you guys and learn what you're doing, and also wondering how much Alexa is listening to our conversation now. But no, this is really great. Matt, anything else you want to share, or otherwise I can introduce next week's show?
No, I think we're good. I mean, I'm on next week's show. I think we're doing vegan food, I think.
We are doing vegan food. Yeah. But before we dive into that, Pam, Kevin, or Brandy, anything last you want to share, just to wrap up any thoughts or things that you want to make sure that our audience knows?
Well, I've got just two quick little things. One,
Great.
We're really happy to see probably starting, well, maybe even next month, but more towards September, some of the community groups that use our space are going to start doing their in-person events again. So we always like to support the community when we can. So we're excited to see that these groups are going to be coming back. And then, as I mentioned at the very beginning, what brought me to Santa Barbara was water polo. And part of being an entrepreneur, and you get to a little bit control the time of day that you work, allowed me to continue to coach with the 805 Water Polo Club here in town while my daughter was playing from 12 and unders through high school. And she's now at UC San Diego. But they just announced the women's water polo team for the Olympics. And it's a very, very small roster of only 13 players, but 3 of them played with our club team. And I'm super proud of them, and really proud to be part of the club. And I just have to throw that out there, because that was big news that we got yesterday. And I'm just really proud of our community and all aspects of it.
Oh, that's super special. Awesome, Pam. Congratulations. That's really big.
You're gonna win. How's our U.S. water polo team?
They're really good. They're really good. They've won gold the last 2 years, or the last 2 Olympics. And I think they're the favorite again this year.
Awesome. Great. Anything, Kevin or Brandy, before we switch gears?
Are you in the Olympics, Kevin?
Not in the Olympics, but I guess just one note, we're excited to get back to the office here. We purposely put the office downtown to be part of the community and be mingling and interacting with the people that we serve as customers. So we're excited to get back, and we hope to see people down here. We're also excited that State Street is closed in front of our office, because it makes for a glorious outdoor dining experience, which Santa Barbara could do with more. So we hope to see you all around the downtown State Street corridor, so we can all help these businesses rebound and have a good time while we're at it.
Awesome. Love that. Well, all right. So next week, we're going to be talking about vegan cuisine. And so we're going to be interviewing Nadia, who's the owner of Blue Owl. We've got Maria Ney from Green Table, and then Dalan Moreno from Rascals. So we're super excited about that. That's going to be next Thursday, July 1st at 3. And then also today is our State Street Promenade Market. So come out and check that out every Thursday from 3 to 7:30. We've expanded now. We're on both the 900 and 1000 block. We're going to be adding music, some dancing, and we're really excited to get back into the full breadth of what is possible. Also, I've got to give one more plug for events this weekend. This is Solstice Weekend. It's not the normal solstice version that we're used to, but we do have a film of the virtual Summer Solstice State Street Parade that's going to be featured at the Arlington Theater at 10 o'clock on June 26th, and then a party at the Community Arts Workshop that evening from 5 to 9. If you're curious about that, check out solsticeparade.com. And then all of these interviews are on both the Independence website as well as Downtown Santa Barbara. So check out downtownsb.org to support all your local downtown businesses and find out what's happening, events, and so much more, as well as our social media. So we will see you next time. Thanks so much, Matt, Pam, and Brandy, and Kevin. We'll see you guys around downtown. Have a good one. See you later.
Bye.